In Josephine, after 80-year-old Josephine accidentally witnesses a crime in Golden Gate Park, she begins to act out violently to protect herself. This emotional trauma leads to conflicts between her and her parents as they search for justice and a way to feel safe again. Josephine is directed by Beth de Araújo, and this is her second feature after Soft and Quiet, and Josephine just debuted at the 2026 Sundance Film Festival. The director's previous film, Soft and Quiet, was one of my top 10 movies from 2022. So this is one of my most anticipated films from Sundance 2026, and this film actually surpassed her previous film. As strong as that film was, this film is very emotional and confronting. I have to give you a trigger warning for anybody who has a trigger warning to sexual assault. Then this film will be very confronting for you, and not just because the sexual assault is shown in full in the first 10 minutes of the film, but the perpetrator of this sexual assault, the little girl Josephine, she is traumatized by this incident, and so she sees this man perpetrator like in her life, everyday life. So he shows up in the film in her bedroom, in the living room, in certain areas throughout the film. So even though that confronting scene is only in the first 10 minutes of the film, because we constantly see him throughout the film, it's the whole film as a whole is quite confronting. And what is quite startling in the first 20 minutes of the film is the total disregard that a lot of the adults have for what Josephine has witnessed in this park. The police are really solely focused on catching this perpetrator and helping the victim with her, and Josephine is kind of like an afterthought. Like she's pushed into the police car, and her father and her parents kind of like try to forget about it, even though it's clear that Josephine has some questions about what happened on that day, but her parents are really ill-equipped to answer her questions and to deal with what actually happened on that day. The parents in this film are played by Tatum and Gemma, and they both have very different parenting styles. Tatum, he is a very like jock athlete type of man, and he does a lot of sporting activities with his daughter Josephine, and Gemma, she's more of the intellectual in the family. So throughout the film, they really add odds at how to deal with the situation, and it's not said, but it's very heavily implied that her mother, Gemma, has been sexually assaulted in the past. So she can relate to, a little bit of what Josephine is going through, even though Josephine was not the one who was assaulted. She witnessed the event. So what was surprising to me was, because the parents realized they're ill-equipped to deal with or answer the questions of their daughter, and Josephine starts to act out throughout the rest of the film, and the mother, Gemma, she suggests that Josephine should see a psychologist, but Josephine doesn't want to see a psychologist, so that idea pretty much goes away. And I was surprised at how easy that was, how easily they forget about the idea of the psychologist, because that really is a detriment to Josephine as the film goes on, because her acting out escalates as the film goes on, until the point where she just shuts down and won't talk anymore. So eventually she does get to talk to somebody later on in the film, and throughout the film there's police officers, there's lawyers asking her questions, and we find out in the film that the perpetrator has pleaded not guilty and has said that the sexual assault was consensual. So the testimony from Josephine is very crucial to finding a guilty verdict on the perpetrator, because the victim, the sexual assault victim, she doesn't want to testify. She's moved away. She wants to forget about the whole incident. So it's solely relied on Josephine's testimony to convict this perpetrator. And as Josephine is acting out as the film goes on, they move to a new home. Gemma Chan, she gets pregnant with a new brother, a baby brother for Josephine, and the parents are like arguing, and then there's court cases and there's interviews. So there's a lot of stress and a lot of changes going on in Josephine's life. And as I said before, she keeps seeing this perpetrator in her everyday life, and she keeps acting out at school and other places. Like she bullies other kids, and she acts out violently towards other people in the film. So, and she just and the film is told mostly from her perspective. So anytime she sees like a man near a child or woman, she thinks that man is going to do something bad. So and she's quite mature for her age. So she's not if she has information at her hand, she's only 8 years old, but if she has the information then she can deal with that information. But because she doesn't know what sex is, she doesn't know what rape is, and she doesn't know what all of these complicated adult issues are, even though she is very mature for her age, she isn't able to deal with what's going on around her because she doesn't really have the answers. In the final 20 minutes of the film, there's a couple of very confronting and emotional scenes. There's a court case that goes on about 10-15 minutes, and this film is quite and this scene is quite confronting because there's the lawyer for the defendant. It's her job to get a innocent or a non-guilty verdict for him, but it's still quite confronting because she really hones in on Josephine because she's sitting up on the stand. She has to answer a lot of questions, and the lawyer that's defending the defendant, she really asks the difficult questions, and as a viewer to this film, you're thinking, how can she defend this perpetrator? But it's her job, and so you have conflicted feelings when you're watching this film because you understand it's her job to get a non-guilty verdict for this perpetrator, but at the same time you're a woman, and there's a very, even though I have doubts that an 8-year-old girl would say the words "why aren't you," but those 3 words are very confronting and emotional when she says it, because it's like, okay, I didn't help the woman in the park, but why aren't you? So even though I have doubts that an 8-year-old girl would have the wisdom and the instinct to say something like that in a court, it's still very, very strong words at that point in time of the film. And then a bit later on in the film, there's another court case where the verdict is going to be given out, and Josephine and her parents are there to hear the verdict, and the sexual assault victim turns up to court to say thank you to Josephine, and it's a very emotional scene in the film. We don't actually find out if the perpetrator was found guilty or not guilty, so that information not given us to as a viewer will probably frustrate some viewers, but for me it doesn't really matter. I'll just go through the performances in this film. This film is on the head and shoulders of the lead performance by Mason Reeves, the young girl who's playing Josephine. She really nails the mix of maturity and confusion, and it just the camera zooms on her face, and she manages just to show so much emotion just on her face alone. And in supporting performances from as her parents, Tatum and Gemma Chan, they are fantastic in this film. They will have a couple of scenes in this film with Josephine that they really get to show their emotion throughout the film. I give Josephine 4.5 stars out of 5. This is a fantastic film from director Beth de Araújo. It's emotional, it's very confronting. If you in the mindscape for a very confronting emotional drama, then I definitely recommend checking out this film. There's no easy answers in this film. There's a lot of confronting issues that are explored throughout this film, but it's excellently acted by the star of this film, Mason Reeves, and her parents, played by Tatum and Gemma Chan. So I highly recommend checking out this film. It's very emotional and very confronting. Thanks for watching. What did you think of Josephine? Please comment below what you thought of the film. See you next time. Bye.